What if your body is actually 10 years older than your birth certificate says, and you have no idea? That's not a scare tactic. That's something scientists now measure with real, validated tools. And the good news? Some of those markers you can start tracking right now, at home. Welcome to Dr. Medora Health. Today we're talking about biological age, what it is, why it matters more than your chronological age, and 6 specific markers you can actually check without a lab coat or a doctor's appointment. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to have a completely different relationship with your health numbers. So let's start with the most important question. What exactly is biological age, and why should you care about it more than the number on your driver's license? Your chronological age is simply how many years you've been alive. It goes up by 1 every single year, no matter what you do. But biological age is different. Biological age reflects how well or how poorly your cells, tissues, and organs are actually functioning. 2 people who are both 55 years old can have wildly different biological ages. One might have the internal health of a 40-year-old. The other might have the internal health of a 70-year-old. And that difference has enormous consequences for their risk of disease, their energy levels, and how long they're likely to live in good health. Research published in journals like Nature Medicine and work coming out of institutions like the Buck Institute for Research on Aging consistently shows that biological age is a stronger predictor of disease risk and mortality than chronological age alone. The science is clear. How old your body is on the inside is what actually matters. Now here's where it gets really interesting. And this is the part most people don't know. Biological age is not fixed. Lifestyle choices, what you eat, how you sleep, how you move, how you manage stress, can actually slow it down, or in some cases, reverse measurable biological aging. That's not wishful thinking. That's published, peer-reviewed science. So let's get into the 6 markers. These are practical, measurable, and some of them you can assess today. Marker number 1 is resting heart rate. Your resting heart rate is simply how many times your heart beats per minute when you're completely at rest, sitting quietly. Not after exercise, not right after you've had coffee. According to the American Heart Association, a normal resting heart rate for adults is between 60 and 100 beats per minute. But here's what the research shows. A resting heart rate in the lower end of that range, somewhere between 60 and 70 beats per minute, is associated with better cardiovascular health, greater heart efficiency, and lower all-cause mortality. A chronically elevated resting heart rate, say, consistently above 80 or 85 beats per minute, has been associated in studies with a higher risk of cardiovascular disease and even earlier death, independent of other risk factors. A landmark study published in Heart, a journal of the British Medical Journal Group, followed over 29,000 people and found that for every 10 beats per minute increase in resting heart rate, the risk of death from heart disease went up significantly. How do you check it? It's simple. First thing in the morning before you get out of bed, place 2 fingers gently on the inside of your wrist, just below your thumb. Count the beats for 30 seconds and multiply by 2. Do this for several mornings in a row to get your true average. Or use a reliable fitness tracker or smartwatch that measures it automatically overnight. If your resting heart rate is consistently above 80, that's worth paying attention to. It doesn't mean something is wrong automatically, but it's a signal worth discussing with your doctor. And here's the hopeful part. Regular aerobic exercise is one of the most effective ways to lower resting heart rate over time. Even a consistent walking routine can make a measurable difference within weeks. Marker number 2 is grip strength. I know what you might be thinking. Grip strength sounds like something only weightlifters care about. But stay with me here, because this one is actually one of the most powerful predictors of biological aging in all of current longevity research. Grip strength is a measure of your overall musculoskeletal health. Muscle tissue is metabolically active. It plays a role in blood sugar regulation, inflammation control, and hormonal balance. As we age, we naturally lose muscle mass through a process called sarcopenia. That muscle loss accelerates biological aging in measurable ways. And grip strength turns out to be a reliable proxy for your overall muscle health and function. A landmark study published in The Lancet followed nearly 140,000 adults across 17 countries and found that low grip strength was a stronger predictor of cardiovascular mortality than blood pressure. Let that sink in for a moment. Your grip strength, of all things, was a better predictor of heart-related death than one of the most commonly measured vital signs in medicine. Additional research published in the British Medical Journal found that low grip strength is associated with increased risk of type 2 diabetes, cognitive decline, depression, and overall early mortality. This is not a fringe finding. This is robust, replicated science. How do you check it at home? A device called a hand dynamometer can be purchased online for anywhere between $20 and $50, and it gives you a precise measurement in kilograms or pounds of force. According to reference values published by researchers, a healthy grip strength for men under 70 should generally be above 35 to 40 kilograms, and for women, above 20 to 25 kilograms. However, these values vary with age and body size, so the trend over time matters as much as the absolute number. If you don't have a dynamometer, a rough qualitative check is simply noticing whether you struggle with tasks like opening jars, carrying groceries, or squeezing things that used to feel easy. The fix? Resistance training. Even twice a week of light to moderate strength training has been shown to preserve and even rebuild muscle mass at virtually any age. It is genuinely one of the most powerful anti-aging interventions available to any of us right now. Marker number 3 is your waist-to-height ratio. You've probably heard about body mass index, or BMI. And while BMI is still widely used, many researchers and physicians now consider it to be a somewhat crude and limited measurement. It doesn't account for where fat is distributed on your body, and that location matters enormously for health. Visceral fat, the fat that accumulates around your abdominal organs, deep inside your belly, is biologically active in a very problematic way. It releases inflammatory compounds and hormones that disrupt insulin signaling, raise blood pressure, and accelerate cellular aging. Excess visceral fat is strongly linked to cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, and certain cancers. The waist-to-height ratio is a simple measurement that correlates strongly with visceral fat accumulation. Research suggests that keeping your waist circumference to less than half your height is associated with significantly better metabolic and cardiovascular health outcomes. For example, if you are 5 feet 8 inches tall, that's 68 inches. Half of 68 is 34. So a waist circumference below 34 inches would be the general target. Studies published in journals like Obesity Reviews have found that waist-to-height ratio outperforms BMI in predicting cardiometabolic risk across multiple populations. How do you check it? Measure your height without shoes. Then measure your waist circumference, not at your hips, but at the natural waist, which is the narrowest part of your torso, roughly at the level of your navel. Divide your waist measurement by your height. If the number is below 0.5, that's generally considered in the healthy range. If it's above 0.5, particularly if it's approaching or above 0.6, that's a meaningful signal to address through nutrition and physical activity. This one matters more than most people realize. And the good news is that visceral fat tends to respond relatively quickly to lifestyle changes, particularly reduced added sugar intake and regular physical activity. Marker number 4 is balance. Here's one that genuinely surprises people. How long you can stand on one leg is actually a meaningful indicator of neurological health, proprioception, inner ear function, and musculoskeletal integrity, all systems that decline with biological aging. A study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine in 2022 attracted worldwide attention when it reported that the inability to stand on one leg for 10 seconds in midlife was associated with an 84% higher risk of death from any cause over the following decade. Now, researchers were careful to note that this doesn't mean poor balance directly causes death, but rather that balance function is a strong marker of overall health status. Poor balance often reflects underlying issues in neurological health, cardiovascular fitness, and physical conditioning, all of which compound mortality risk. The American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons and multiple balance researchers consider a one-leg stand test a useful functional fitness marker. Healthy adults in their 40s should generally be able to hold a one-leg stand for 40 seconds or more with eyes open. By their 60s, 20 seconds or more is a reasonable target. By their 70s, 10 seconds is considered the meaningful threshold. How to test yourself safely. Stand near a wall or sturdy surface in case you need to catch yourself. Lift one foot slightly off the ground and time how long you can hold it without touching down, grabbing anything, or excessively swaying. Try both legs. If your balance is poor, the great news is that balance is highly trainable. Practices like yoga, tai chi, and even simple daily balance exercises, standing on one foot while brushing your teeth, for instance, have been shown in research to meaningfully improve balance function in older adults within just a few weeks. Now we're at the halfway point, and the next two markers are ones that most people never think to track at home. Don't skip these, especially number 5. It connects to one of the fastest-growing health crises in the country. Marker number 5 is resting blood pressure, measured consistently and correctly. You might be thinking, I know about blood pressure, that's basic. But the way most people understand and track blood pressure is actually missing something critical. Let me explain. The American College of Cardiology and the American Heart Association updated their guidelines in 2017 and now define high blood pressure, or hypertension, as 130/80 or higher. Previously, the threshold was 140/90. That's not a minor tweak. That change means tens of millions more Americans now fall into the hypertensive category, and it reflects a growing body of evidence that even mildly elevated blood pressure over time significantly increases the risk of stroke, heart attack, kidney disease, and cognitive decline. What's concerning from a biological aging standpoint is that hypertension is sometimes called the silent killer because it typically produces no symptoms. You can have meaningfully elevated blood pressure for years and feel completely fine, while damage is accumulating in your arteries, heart, kidneys, and brain. The key word here is consistently. A single blood pressure reading at the doctor's office, when you may be anxious or stressed, is not always representative of your true average. Research supports the value of home blood pressure monitoring with a validated upper arm cuff device. The American Heart Association recommends morning readings taken after sitting quietly for 5 minutes, in a proper seated position with your back supported and feet flat on the floor. Take 2 readings, 1 minute apart, and average them. Optimal blood pressure is generally below 120/80. Readings consistently in the 120 to 129/80 range are considered elevated. At 130/80 and above, that's stage 1 hypertension. If you're consistently seeing numbers above 140/90, that warrants medical attention. The reason this marker is so connected to biological aging is that blood vessels age. Arterial stiffness, the loss of elasticity in your blood vessel walls, is a major mechanism of vascular aging, and chronically elevated blood pressure both reflects and accelerates that stiffness. There are validated, effective interventions for blood pressure beyond medication, including the DASH diet, sodium reduction, regular aerobic exercise, stress management, and limiting alcohol. These are not just suggestions. They are well documented in large clinical trials. Marker number 6 is sleep quality, specifically your restorative sleep, not just total hours. If you're still watching, this last one may be the most underappreciated longevity marker of all. And it's one where a lot of people are unknowingly accelerating their biological aging every single night. The science on sleep and biological aging has expanded dramatically in recent years. Research from institutions including the National Institutes of Health, Harvard Medical School, and numerous university sleep centers has established that sleep is not passive rest. It is an active biological process during which your body performs critical repair functions, clearing metabolic waste from the brain through the glymphatic system, consolidating memory, regulating hormones including cortisol and human growth hormone, repairing cellular damage, and resetting immune function. A study published in Nature Communications in 2023 found that sleep deprivation and poor sleep quality were associated with accelerated epigenetic aging, meaning that poor sleep was literally measurable in the biological age of cells. The Framingham Heart Study and other long-term population studies have repeatedly linked insufficient sleep, defined as consistently under 7 hours per night for adults, with higher rates of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cognitive decline, obesity, and mortality. Adults generally need between 7 and 9 hours of quality sleep per night, according to recommendations from the American Academy of Sleep Medicine and the Sleep Research Society. But total hours are only part of the picture. Sleep architecture matters, meaning how much time you spend in the deeper, more restorative stages of sleep. How do you track this at home? Consumer sleep trackers, including devices from brands like Fitbit, Garmin, Oura, and Apple, have improved significantly in recent years and can provide useful estimates of sleep stages, though they are not perfectly equivalent to clinical sleep studies. More importantly, there are reliable qualitative signals of poor sleep quality you should pay attention to. Consistently waking feeling unrefreshed, significant daytime drowsiness, difficulty concentrating, mood changes, and waking multiple times per night. Warning signs that warrant medical evaluation include loud snoring, gasping, or breathing pauses during sleep. These can indicate obstructive sleep apnea, a serious and underdiagnosed condition that independently accelerates cardiovascular and metabolic aging and is highly treatable. Practical steps to improve sleep quality include maintaining a consistent sleep and wake schedule even on weekends, keeping your bedroom cool and dark, limiting screen exposure in the hour before bed, avoiding caffeine after noon, and reducing alcohol, which many people use as a sleep aid but which actually fragments sleep architecture and suppresses restorative deep sleep. Let's bring this all together with your key takeaways. Biological age is a more meaningful measure of your health trajectory than chronological age. And 6 markers you can track at home give you a real window into where your biological age stands right now. Resting heart rate reflects cardiovascular efficiency. A consistently elevated resting heart rate above 80 beats per minute deserves attention. Grip strength is a powerful, research-backed predictor of overall health and longevity. Measure it, track it over time, and prioritize resistance training. Waist-to-height ratio gives you a more meaningful picture of metabolically dangerous visceral fat than BMI alone. The target is keeping your waist below half your height. Balance is a surprisingly reliable marker of neurological and musculoskeletal health. Practice it daily and test yourself honestly. Blood pressure, tracked consistently at home with a validated device, tells you about your vascular health in real time. Know your numbers. Normal is below 120/80. Sleep quality, particularly restorative sleep, is one of the most powerful modulators of biological aging available to you, and it's free. Protect it like the biological asset it is. None of these markers in isolation tells the complete story. But together, they give you a meaningful, actionable picture of your biological health that most people never think to track. And tracking them over time, improving them through evidence-based lifestyle changes, is genuinely one of the most powerful things you can do for your long-term health and longevity. If this video gave you something useful, consider sharing it with someone you care about who could benefit from this information. And if you want to go deeper on any of these markers, particularly sleep, grip strength, or blood pressure, we've covered each of those in more detail in other videos on this channel. You'll find them linked and waiting for you. Take care of your body. It's the only one you have. And remember, your biological age is not your destiny. It's your starting point.